Hi everyone, my name is David Rao and I'm the music teacher who blogs at makemomentsmatter.org. You can also find my ideas on Instagram, on Facebook, on Twitter, on Pinterest, on my website Make Moments Matter, and a lot of other places when you search for my name, David Rao or Make Moments Matter, music education. I'm so excited to be sharing with you this week. I'm really super excited because my school has been in this cycle of lessons, and for the last 5 weeks I've been locked into the same lessons, and I'm finally getting to share some new lessons with students starting this Wednesday. So I've just finished my lesson planning K through 5, and I'm going to be sharing about kindergarten today and some of the ideas and things that I'm using hopefully with kindergarten starting the next rotation, and things that are going to be coming in the next few weeks. So a couple quick things. So if you hear me say oh, it's on the links page, or you can check the links for that on my blog, makemomentsmatter.org. There's a drop-down tab that says links, or I might say videos, I can't remember. There's a page that's Musical Mondays Recap 2020-2021 with all the links and things that I've shared. I'm going to be talking about books and things too, specifically on my Amazon ideas list, and that's going to be linked there too. But all that stuff is on that links page. So if you have a question, it's not there, please email me and let me know. Okay, a couple other quick things. I know Halloween is coming up, and some people celebrate and some people don't, and some people like resources for that and some people don't. I put together all of my Halloween resources on my Teachers Pay Teachers store into one huge bundle. So if you want everything, centers, interactive games, bulletin boards, everything, it's all in one big bundle if that's helpful. I've never tried doing this before, so I thought I'd try it and just mention it to folks so that if you are interested in something like that, you can go and find that. That's on my Teachers Pay Teachers store. And anytime I add a new Halloween resource, if you've already bought the big bundle, it'll go into there. So it's going to grow. Thanks so much for the folks who have emailed me and messaged me and sent me ideas for more books featuring Indigenous peoples from around the world, especially people in North America, because I live and teach in North America. So it's especially helpful for me to learn about the books about Native peoples and First Nations that live here, because that's a little bit closer to my students, and it's just a little bit more of a great connection for my students to know about the people who lived in the places where we live now, or live in the places where we live now. And so thanks for sharing those ideas with me. I've gotten some really great ideas, and I'm going to be tracking down some more books. I'm going to be sharing some of the ones that you've mentioned to me tonight in just a minute. And one more thing, if you just love professional development and you want a little bit more, last weekend I did an online professional development through the Tidewater Area ORF chapter in Virginia Beach, Virginia. And this weekend, this coming Saturday, I'll be doing another workshop through the Greater Milwaukee ORF Dimensions, so the Milwaukee ORF chapter basically. It's only $10 if you're not a member of the local chapter, so really, really affordable. It's 2 hours from 10 a.m. to noon Central Time, and so go check out MilwaukeeORF.org. You can sign up there for the workshop. This weekend, I'm going to be sharing all about critical thinking and how you can infuse some of those critical thinking ideas into lessons that you already have. And I'll also be sharing new lesson ideas that you can take away and run with and use in your classroom. So a lot of great things coming from that through Milwaukee ORF, and it's only $10 if you're not a local member. So if you're interested, this Saturday from 10 to noon, you can join in and be a part of that workshop. Again, it's about critical thinking. So I know that's something that administrators are always like, oh, what's your yearly goal going to be? And you'd be like, critical thinking in the classroom. So it's always a great thing to add in. And I think it's going to be a lot of fun. You're going to get some good ideas out of it. If you're free this Saturday, come and join us. Okay, so I wanted to go back and talk about, I just got a load of books about a week ago. I've shared before about discount book websites and places that I get books. I do put all the books that I am interested in or shared or whatever all on Amazon on that ideas list. You don't have to buy from Amazon. You can if you want. Sometimes it's cheaper to do that than to buy a discount book because of shipping or whatever. But a lot of the times it's cheaper to buy on discount book websites. So I just got a big haul from betterworldbooks.com. I've also bought from thriftbooks.com, abebooks.com, bookoutlet.com. There are all sorts of websites. I've shared about those before. And you can even just search in Google discount book website, and you might find a few more ideas that are better than mine. But Better World Books is the one that I got from this last time, and I got 4 books for like $17 or something. And so I wanted to share the books that I got with you and how I'm going to hopefully use them. So the first one I want to share, I don't know how to pronounce this name, and I spent probably 20 minutes online trying to figure out how to pronounce it. So especially if you live in Canada, or especially Northern Canada, if I'm saying this wrong, please fix me. But this book is called, I think Simony. I'm not sure. I looked up and there was like one website that was like, I think it's pronounced like this, but it was like a computer pronunciation, so I don't know if it's actually true. And I could not find any YouTube videos with like the name mentioned. Anyway, but Simony in the Dance Contest. So this comes from Nunavut, which is, tell me if I'm pronouncing that wrong too, which is the northern end of Canada, specifically Inuit people. And this book, it's just a really cool book, so I'm just going to read part of it to you and share how I'm going to use it. But this one was one that was recommended to me after I mentioned, like, I'd love more books about First Nations. I'd love more books about Native Americans. I'd love more books. So please tell me if you have more ideas. But this is one that someone recommended to me, and I wanted to share it with you. Simony loved to read. He loved it so much that he practiced reading syllabics everywhere he went with Anana. Yeah, and I'd probably say syllables, I guess. It would be the North American translation of that. I don't know. There's a Canadian thing, so sometimes things are spelled differently or whatever, and with my kids, they wouldn't be reading it, but I need to make some of those changes so that they could get the understanding of what exactly is happening. He read signs in the stores, at the skating arena, and even at the health center. One morning at the arena, he saw a poster that showed people dancing together. "What does that say, Simony?" asked Anana. Simony walked right up to the poster so he could see the words clearly. "Christmas Jigging Dance Contest," he read. "December 14th. Anana, it's the community dance contest." The only thing that Simony loved more than reading was dancing. He loved going to the community dance where he could dance with all his friends and neighbors. The contest would be just as much fun, maybe even more. Simony was so excited that he danced part of the way home, imagining himself stepping across the dance floor in front of all of his friends. When he got home, Simony burst through the door. Atata, who was making dinner, looked up, startled. Atata, this year I want to enter the jigging dance contest. Can you teach me some new steps? I have to practice," Simony said. Atata laughed and promised he would help Simony prepare for the contest. Over the next few weeks, Simony practiced his dancing. He spun, he stepped, and he even tried hopping around like a hare. When he felt ready, he asked Atata to watch him. "That's good, Simony," said Atata, "but you have to feel the movements and the music. They go together." Simony wasn't sure what Atata meant. He knew he was already listening to the beat of the music and dancing in time to it. How could he feel the music too? Simony needed a partner. The next time he saw his friend Dana, he said, "I'm going to enter the dance contest. How about you?" "Yes, let's dance together," said Dana. At morning recess, when the sun came up and gave them some light, Simony and Dana practiced on the playground. The snow was flat and crisp, so Simony and Dana stamped out a circle and practiced dancing in opposite directions inside it. It was hard work. The more Simony danced, the better he got. But something was missing. He still didn't understand how to feel the music, like Atata had said. After a few days of practicing with Dana, Simony saw his friend David at the arena. Simony knew that David was a good dancer. At last year's competition, he had drifted across the dance floor like cotton grass blown by a gust of wind. Simony wondered if he was good enough to dance like David. Feeling nervous, he said he was entering the contest this year. "That's so cool," said David. "Let's practice together." Simony grinned and nodded. He couldn't wait to get even better. Okay, so I'm not going to read the whole thing to you, but let me just paraphrase the rest of the book. So, it'll just sort of run through. So he practices with his friends. They see, like, dance the way the music feels, and he's like, I don't know what that means, which I resonate with. As someone who's not like grown-up dancing, I'm just like, oh, cool. Dance the way the music makes you feel. Okay, well, I end up looking like, I feel like, Elaine from Seinfeld, where I'm just like doing these jerky movements. But the cool thing about this book is that it keeps saying like, well, when he really makes a breakthrough is when he closes his eyes and stops thinking about what other people are thinking of him and just dances what he feels. And so I think that's such a cool part of the book. He goes to the dance contest. He and Dana win the dance contest, but there's definitely a little bit about stage fright and a little bit of him about worrying about other people. And then when he just does what he feels is right, and he relies on his practice, he really takes flight. So I love this part. Simon's arms flew out from his sides, his elbows bent and his fingers spread, feeling as though the music had caused something inside him to take flight. His arm moved like wings as he jigged round and round the circle. And then he like lost himself in it. He forgot that it was still going, and they finished, and people said he'd done so well, and then he and Dana won. You learned to feel the music, Simony, Atata said proudly. And then he danced with his parents. He felt proud and happy, and most importantly, he knew he had danced his best. So, like, what an amazing story that, like, just, dance what you feel in your heart. And even if you don't know what that is at first, just keep trying and practicing. And he reaches out to his friends, and he reaches out to his family, and he works. So it's so cool. So, again, I don't know if I'm pronouncing this right. So if I'm not, please fix me and tell me. But it's called Simony and the Dance Contest. And so, like I said, I did a little bit of research and tried to find how to pronounce the name exactly, and I can't. And so if you can help me, great. But I wanted to show you, I did a little bit of YouTubing earlier, and because I have not yet used this with kids, because my next rotation is about to start. So I haven't found that, but I found a couple cool videos. Let me just quickly go back over and say Simony and the Dance Contest. This is by Gail Matthews, illustrated by Allie Hinch. And you can get it on Amazon, I think, but it's published by Inhabit Media. So if you go to inhabitmedia.com, you can find it there if you want to buy directly or buy new, but you can also get it on discount book websites. I say that because I got it from a discount book website, but I might have got the last copy, so sorry. Okay, but let me show you a couple videos that a video I found, and then mention another one. So I'm going to try and flip around, because flipping around the camera always works so well. Just kidding, it never ever does, but let me just try it anyway. Okay, so I'm going to turn that off so I can zoom in a little bit. So if you look on YouTube and you look up Inuit dancing, or if you look up specifically like jigging is what I looked up. I found this one called How to Literally Tear Up the Floor Dancing the Red River Jig. So I'll just watch a second of this.
Alright, what I'm about to teach you is the Red River Jig, also known as square dancing. Step 1, heel toe tap. So go 1. Like 4 times. Boom.
So the cool thing is he really is explaining how to do this dance.
Yeah. Get a little movement into it.
It goes sort of step by step, explains more.
Step 2 will be the double step.
So like super cool. This was in my very like super fast initial like let's look through and see what's available sort of thing to see what we could or what I could even come up with. I did find another really cool sort of documentary video from the CBC, Canadian Broadcasting Company. And the documentary, I'll just say you should preview it and decide if you want to use it in your classroom, because it does go really in depth about especially the Northern Territories and a village there where the jigging has really helped to revitalize the community. And it's so cool because it goes through and talks about one of the things I love is that a couple of the people, they do a lot of little interviews. It's only a maybe 8-minute video. And I've linked it on the links page. But he goes through and says like, well, the colonizers brought the folk dancing, but the native peoples, the First Nations in Canada, they're called, the First Nations people added in our own aspect to it and really made this a new thing, changed it. And it's so cool. And you talk about like, you can see some of those original folk dance steps if you look and then you can also see the influence of the First Nations. And so it's a super cool little video. But the video itself talks about how the jigging and the dancing has helped to bring the community out of, or bring it through a rash of suicides that have happened, and some really depressing and sad things that have happened in the community, and this dancing has really helped them sort of bounce back a little bit. So it's, I don't know that I would show it to you really young grades, and you might have to talk about that, or you might use this as an example of like, you don't have to be alone. You don't have to feel these things alone. And there are lots of people who are sad and depressed, and they talk about that and how you can use art as an expressive form to help you deal with feelings that you're feeling. And it's just a really cool video, but maybe you're like, I don't want to get into that. Well, there are some really cool videos. They're like the dance competitions, because this is about a dance contest. So there are videos from the dance competitions. There are videos about how to do the jigging dance and just about the culture. So, but I think it'd be really cool if you did show that video about like the original dance from the colonizers, and then plus what the First Nations have done to change those dances. You could do a compare contrast. If you've done a folk dance unit, you could talk about how like maybe the things you did look a little bit different, or how do they look similar, or I mean, it'd just be really cool to incorporate some of that. But all of that came from this one book that I was like, this is so cool, and then it inspired me to be like, well, what else could we do? And then found some videos, found some other stuff, but still I'm not sure if I'm saying this right. Simony, maybe? Please fix me if I'm wrong, and let me know. If you know how it's pronounced, send me a message, let me know. Okay, one that I shared last week, I think last week, maybe 2 weeks ago, was this one called Maria Tallchief, the First Native American Ballerina. And you might remember, if you were watching last week, that this is a lot, it's like, it feels sort of like a leveled reader for kids, in that like it feels like it's sort of contrived, like it's not real, there's no story to it. It just tells you about her life, it tells you about dance, it tells you about Native peoples, but it's like, I mean, stock photos and some photos from her life, and I mean some things, but it's just a lot of like, it's not a narrative. And so that for me, I'm just like, I just love narrative books. So I got another book, and this one is called Tall Chief, and the byline is America's Prima Ballerina. This is by Maria Tallchief with Rosemary Wells, illustrations by Gary Kelly. So this book actually does go through, and it gives her story from her perspective. So I'll just read the first page here. I was born on an Osage Indian reservation in Fairfax, Oklahoma in the year 1925. My father, Alexander Tallchief, was a full-blooded Osage, and he looked just like the Indian on the Buffalo Head nickel. He could spot a rattlesnake out of the corner of his eye, aim his rifle, and shoot the snake from 50 yards away while still walking. My father had never known the life of his ancestors. He told me that when he was a boy. Oil was discovered on the Osage land in Fairfax. In a short time, the oil fields would produce more riches than all the gold rushes in history. The Osage people owned the head rights to the oil on their land, and their lives changed forever when the black fountains of Oklahoma crude came out of the ground. I was told that the Osage people were the wealthiest people on the face of the earth. This was true. Osage men wore beads woven into the cloth of their trousers. Osage women sewed semi-precious stones into belts and jewelry. My father had a long red Pierce Arrow car, which he loved to show off up and down the main streets of Fairfax. So that's one page. It is a long book. It is a super cool book, all about Maria Tallchief and her life, and it transitions later on. And it's what's really interesting that she becomes this prima ballerina is this page where it says, among my father's people, women do not dance, only the men. In those days, it was illegal for Indians to live in any way but the white man's way. Dancing and other native ceremonies were considered bad for us. White men believed that the religious ceremonies of our people would keep us in primitive ignorance forever. Our culture and language were against the law, but we didn't care. What the government said didn't matter a fig to us. Our drums went on as they always had. To this day, I remember their rhythm. So, but it's cool because it talks about those like forbidden dances of the Osage people, that they weren't allowed to dance their dances because the government said that it was bad, right? And the ceremonies were hidden in hidden places and only tribal members, and they wore their traditional things. It was so super cool. But then also like in that tribe, women weren't allowed to do it. So anyway, so she went on to be this amazing ballerina, and it's just, the thing is that it's a long book and it's in depth. So if you're going to read it, you might think about that as you place like where in the curriculum you'd put it and what grade you'd put it with. You might add it to like a reading center, or you might add it in as like an extra thing if you want it, if you're afraid of kids getting bored with it. I don't know. You might ask grade level teachers, like, how would you integrate this longer book, or how do you feel? Because I definitely don't feel as a music teacher that I know exactly where kids would go with this, or some kids would burn out, but like if I do it with a whole class, would they handle it or not? Would I read it in sections? What would we do? So anyway, but it's a beautiful book, and the illustrations are just amazing. And so this is Tall Chief, America's Prima Ballerina by Maria Tall Chief, with Rosemary Wells, illustrations by Gary Kelly. Super cool book. It'd be also awesome to pair it with the other book as well that I mentioned before. Okay, those are 2 cool books. I want to get through these last 2 and then get to lessons really quick. So, by the way, all these books I got in one order from Better World Books. So check it out. You could get a lot of books for not a lot of money. And we all know picture books are expensive. Why? I don't know, but they are. So get them used. Like this one, The Bat Boy and His Violin. I got it, and on the inside it says like discard from such and such library, Rapids Parish Library. Okay, I don't care if it's a discard. I'm using it in class with 10-year-olds, so they don't care. But anyway, so get them used. So this is called The Bat Boy and His Violin. This is a super cool book, and especially poignant for kids in where I live in Kansas City, because it talks about, well, there's this boy and he loves playing the violin, and he plays Tchaikovsky and Beethoven and Bach, and he plays all sorts of things, and his dad is the manager of the Dukes, and it says the worst team in the Negro National League. So far, the 1948 season has been the toughest yet. Pop is even having trouble booking games the team is likely to lose. He says it's because all his best hitters and fielders are going over to play for white teams, the way Jackie Robinson did last year. So 1948, and it's placing, the whole story is based on this boy whose dad is a manager for one of the Dukes, right? Yeah, the Negro National League. So this was a long time ago, before Jackie Robinson's time. So it might be tricky for kids to place it, but what's really cool is that the Negro National Baseball League Museum, I don't know if that's the exact name, I'm trying to remember, is in Kansas City. So if my kids do any field trips, or if they do virtual field trips, this is a super cool book that you can integrate. Anyway, so his son plays the violin, and he wants him to be a bat boy for the team, and he's not very good at being a bat boy, but he plays when people are up to bat, and he plays different things, and it sort of becomes sort of like the good luck charm for the team. And it is really cool because it talks about like they aren't allowed in hotels in some cities, and so they sleep on the bus because white hotel owners don't want African Americans staying in their hotels. So it does bring up some tricky things that are part of our history that are worth bringing up. But something you'd want to think about and maybe talk to homeroom teachers, like, when can I integrate this? What's a good time? When are you talking about things like this so that we can integrate a little bit more from music to your classroom when we talk about all this together? But what's really tricky, especially because of where we are, is that in the final game, the team in the book loses to the Monarchs, which was the Kansas City team. So, because this whole time you've been like, ooh, the Dukes, go the Dukes. And then, like, our hometown team beats the OT. So it's like, how am I going to handle that one? But anyway, it's a super cool story. From what I can tell, it is not based on a true story, but I'm not sure. I just felt like that would be mentioned in any of the reviews or things if it were, but I have not found that yet. If you know different, please let me know. But The Bat Boy and His Violin, and this is by Gavin Curtis, illustrated by E.B. Lewis. Super cool book. Totally worth checking out from the library or buying, getting you on your own. It's a great book. And then one more that I got in that same order, Old McKimba Had a Farm by Rachel Isadora. If you remember that name, Rachel Isadora wrote, a couple books that I've shared before, but the last one I think was Say Hello, which was like saying hello in lots of different languages with people all around the community. Anyway, I'll just do the first page here. It will probably sound familiar. Old Makimba had a farm, E-I-E-I-O, and on this farm he had a baboon, E-I-E-I-O, with an ooh-ha-ha here and an ooh-ha-ha there, here an ooh, there an ooh, everywhere an ooh-ha-ha. Old Makimba had a farm, E-I-E-I-O. So it'd be super cool if you do Old MacDonald and you want to compare and contrast. Also, look at those illustrations. That's text on the elephant, which I think is super duper cool. So elephant and zebra and cheetah, Dossie with a trill here, and warthog and hippo and giraffe. And I think these illustrations are so cool. Look at that. That's like cut up kente cloth in there. Love that. Lizard, springbok, parrot, ostrich, rhino, lion. So super, super cool. And at the back, it goes through and talks about each animal and gives a really short thing. Like parrot, there are more than 370 species of parrots, and they're considered some of the most intelligent of the bird species. Some parrots can live to be 80 years old. How cool. So especially if you're wanting, this might be cool for a sub, if you want to leave like an Old MacDonald book, and then this is a comparison, as like a compare contrast, or you could have it just in a lesson where you're doing comparisons with different things, or if you just want to read it and sing it. I mean, like, that's all cool, all great things that you can do with the book. But Old Makimba Had a Farm. I have a whole page on my Amazon ideas page of like books based on songs, so this one went in there with that, but it's a great book by Rachel Isadora. So all four of those books, Old Makimba, Bat Boy and His Violin, Simony, and Tall Chief, were all four on Better World Books for like $16, $17, like not a lot. That's like one regular normal new book, right? So anyway, check out those discount book websites. Sometimes I'll buy from the discount books, and then I'll realize that the Amazon book on Amazon brand new is like 50 cents more. Okay, whatever. I've rescued a book out of the discount pile. It's fine. Feel fine with that. But do a little checking back and forth and see what you can find. Okay, I'm going to jump into kindergarten lessons. I only have a half hour. All my kindergarten lessons are this year are 50 minutes, and I have 5 of them in the cycle. So I see every homeroom 5 days in a row. So sorry, let me just explain this a little better. I'm not being clear. My rotations are I see one homeroom every day for 5 days, and then I don't see them again for 5-ish weeks. It's because of COVID. It's not ideal, but it's what we're doing, and it's for limited exposure and all sorts of things. The one thing that I have not been doing is singing, because the research seems to show that it's not safe. It's not. I think your district should be the one to make the final judge of that. But I personally have not been singing. I sung like once, and it was outside or in the gym, or in a bigger space where there was more more airflow. We kept our masks on, all of that. The game changer for me is that randomly a huge air purifier showed up in my classroom today. So like, cool, like a good one, I think. So I can't wait to talk with other people on my grade or on my music team throughout the district. Like, did you get one? What are you? What's the district's idea on this? Is it like so we can sing? Did like the high school people get it? I can't wait to see how that works out. But it gives me the thought that maybe they did that so that we could potentially sing in the classroom, potentially. But again, I think that's a call that your district should make before you make. So my plans, I'm going to go through and I'm going to try and get through kindergarten and just share some of the ideas and resources and things that I'm doing with kindergarten in this next set. I've seen kindergartners once. And it's been real weird. Some of them I saw 2 days in person, and then they did 2 days of digital lessons. Some of them I've seen 4 days in person. Some of them I've seen 3 days in person. But it's been so weird. So it finally feels like this is like the first real rotation where I'll see them for like a full 5 days. And It's weird, but of course schedules are always weird, so we're adapting. Anyway, so a couple things that we've learned already. There's a poem I use called Copycat, that when they come in, I take this little tabby puppet, and we do copycat, copycat, 1, 2, 3. Do what I do after me. Anything I do, you do the same. That's how you play the copycat game. And then we do some very, very basic echoing, where I'll clap and they clap. I'll clap and they clap. Short, 4 beats, nothing earth shaking, right? No, and it's usually just like... right? And it's all based on, there's body percussion, we use simple rhythms, where it's all just trying to get kids to mimic and copy and explore, right? And so we do that back and forth. We'll do the poem, we'll do some clapping. We'll do the poem, we'll do some patting. We'll do the poem, we'll do some stomping. We'll do the poem, and maybe we'll do stretches. You know, maybe we'll just like, and they'll mimic movements. But anyway, it's just back and forth for just a couple minutes to get them started. We've also learned engine number 9, going down Chicago line. See it sparkle, see it shine. Engine number 9. So that's one that I'm going to use the very first day to sort of like connect between when I saw them weeks and weeks and weeks ago and when I'm seeing them now. Because they will hopefully remember the copycat. I'm sure they will. I have a very sassy tabby cat puppet that like was silly, and so I'm sure they'll be like, where's Tabby? So they'll remember that, and they'll probably remember engine number 9, and probably nothing else. So that's what I'm doing the first day, like the very first thing to grab their attention to bring them back in. And then I've got this book that I've shared about before called Plants Can't Keep Still, or Can't Sit Still, by Rebecca Hirsch, illustrations by Mia Posada. And I've shared about it before, about how I think I saw it at National AOSA a couple years ago, and I like the book, and but I have to adapt everything because now in COVID, like my kids are on dots, they're not moving, they're not going around. So like we're not doing small group stuff. So how are we going to do this? So the cool thing is like, well, guess what? Plants have roots. So if plants can move on their roots, then certainly my kids can stay in their spot and also mimic some plant movements. So I'm going to just read a page or two of this. Plants don't have feet or fins or wings, yet they can move in many ways. Look closely and you'll discover that plants can't sit still. You know who else can't sit still? Kindergarten. We say crisscross applesauce, spoons in the bowl, hands in your lap, and yet somehow you're moving. Kids can't sit still, just like plants. Plants can wiggle, and I'm assuming the kids are going to start wiggling, and if I don't, I'll be like, did you just wiggle? And see, as seedlings start to grow, they squirm out of spring soil, unfolding their leaves. And at this point, I'm assuming the kids are going to be squirming too. So I'm hoping that the kids will sort of like mimic some of these actions, which is, again, because plants have roots, hopefully the kids will be able to modify because they're not going to be leaving their dot. They're going to stay on their dot. Unfolding their leaves and reach for the warmth and the light. So they might be standing at this point. Plants can creep, they slither underground or crawl through tall grass, reaching for the things that all plants need: water, sunshine, and room to grow. So this might be a time where you're like, okay, but you can't leave your dot. So how can you creep, sort of move a little bit, while staying in your spot? Can you use your legs, can you use your arms to find a way to creep and move? And the whole book does a little bit of this. There are a couple parts where like seeds are released or whatever and they whirl away, or they hitchhike on your sock, or a fox's bushy tail, like seeds moving like that, where kids might be like, let's move, and you're like, no. But there are definitely things where like the seeds whirl like helicopters, so they could spin around in their spot, or do that really, I hate, annoying thing where they do the helicopter arms for like 5 minutes at a time. Anyway, so there's some really cool visuals in here, and because, like I said, again, because plants can't move and our kids can't move, like what fun parallels we can draw. So we've done Copycat, we've done engine number 9. We're going to do Plants Can't Sit Still. And then Snowy, the owl, is going to visit. In a previous lesson, the kids met Peter the rabbit. He taught them about their speaking voice. And then Snowy flies in and teaches them about singing voice. So again, in a singing limited classroom, how are we going to learn about singing voice? Great question. So my plans have been, well, now with this filter, who knows what the plans will eventually become. But my plans have been that, like, I will pre-record. Like, maybe Snowy will come in and I'll, like, say hi to her or whatever, and then Snowy can kind of pre-recorded a singing back and forth thing with me, so I'm not actually physically doing that with kids in front of me. But I'm not exactly sure. I could, be like Snowy's special music video where she sings. I don't know. Be like, ooh, I'm such a great singer. I have a music video. Shall I show you? And then, like, we could do I don't know, her introducing the singing voice. Again, this is something where you have to modify because of COVID, and, like, there's no great right answer. So working that out. But I thought it'd be fun to pre-record. Kids would love that. And I'm not going to, like, make something in iMovie a crazy, like, actual music video. It's going to be me, like, 3 minutes with a puppet vamping and singing your little song, and then just putting that up on a PowerPoint. So Snowy comes in, and then also, like, how do you, if you're talking about the 4 voices, if you're talking about singing voice, speaking voice, whisper voice, shouting voice, how do you do that when you are limited to not singing or not shouting? You can really only whisper and use your speaking voice in healthy and safe ways. Well, I don't know. So, but I've been looking for videos where people use their singing voice. My favorite one to use is from Disney's Enchanted with Amy McAdams from a couple years ago. Super fun video, but there's a clip that I always love to show where she sings. The whole premise is, like, she's a Disney princess, but in real life, and so, like, she'll try to break into song and people stare at her and look at her funny, but she just loves her singing voice so much she can't help it, and they're overcome by Disney magic, basically, and people join and sing. Anyway, there's a couple fun songs in there, but that made me think, like, hey, like any musical where they break into song, you could do anything where pull, that scene from Sound of Music, or pull a scene from Lion King, or pull a scene from wherever where you have people just breaking into song, and you could talk about, wait, why aren't they using their speaking voice? Aren't they trying to have a conversation? Oh, they're using their singing voice, So I'm thinking, like, I'm just going to keep looking for fun moments like that where we can identify singing voice as opposed to just normal speaking voice or whisper voice or whatever. So I'm not demoing as much, but the cool thing is, like, I wish I could sing more with them, but also, like, they're going to see it. They're going to see women singing. They're going to sing male voices. They're going to see kids singing. They're going to see puppets sing. They're going to see whatever. They're going to see all different versions, which I wouldn't be able to produce on my own anyway. So double-edged sword. Like, hooray that, like, I'll get to use these different examples. I don't know. That's sort of my thought. So That's How You Know is the song from Enchanted. That's how you know he loves you, or whatever. It's a super fun song from Enchanted, the movie. And you can get it on DVD. I think maybe that clip is on YouTube, but it's been pulled a couple times. So the DVD's real cheap at Walmart if you can, or Amazon or wherever, if you can find a DVD player. Okay, and then, oh no, my last puppet did not make it home. Oh no. And then yes, she did. In the last few minutes of that lesson, we'll be talking about whisper voice, and in will Flitter, the butterfly, who teaches them about whisper voice. And you have to be very quiet, because if you scare off the butterfly, she'll fly away, and so you use your whisper voice. I've done a whole video about the 4 voices using puppets before, so if you're interested in that, you can find that on YouTube, on my YouTube page, or on my Facebook page. But Flitter comes in and teaches them about their whisper voice, and this is my yellow swallowtail puppet, which I love, which I've only had for like a year. And I used to use this really cruddy old puppet that was not as attractive. And so I really like this one. And her wings flap very nicely. And so she can go around, and you could even have the kids use their whisper voice to whisper back and forth with Flitter. Be a fun little extra. I see Heather said maybe pre-record Snowy's part of dialogue and then drop the audio files in a PowerPoint. That way you could use your clicker. Okay, that is smart, assuming I remember our scripted conversation, because most of the time, if I'm using puppets, I am just making it up as I go. So if I were going to do that, Heather, I would have to know what I was going to say and what Snowy was going to sing back to me. But if it were like, I guess, a song or something, then for sure we could absolutely do that. It's a cool idea. I had not thought of pre-recording Snowy's, just her singing part. I guess since her mouth's not moving anyway, I could have my clicker in my pocket, and kids would be like really impressed because my mouth isn't moving, but they're That's brilliant. Okay. Anyway, so that's day 1. Day 2, they come in, they do copycat, and we would do, in the previous rotation, we learned Where is Thumpkin? And I'm planning to have pre-record myself singing that and have kids do the actions along. I've always found that, like, even when I do Where is Thumpkin on, like, a year where we can sing, I get trouble with them singing it, like actually singing it. But they'll do the actions. So I'm going to let them do the actions. If they want to do that brief bit of singing, I'm not going to stop them. But if I've pre-recorded, that means I'm not pumping aerosols into the air, and the kids are doing it, again, with masks and with our air filter. So I'm not too worried about that brief moment of Where is Thumpkin. But doing that because of finger play and having them identify the fingers, and it's a great one to get started and to get kids sort of thinking about moving in fun ways. And then we're going to learn the finger play called Wee Willie Winkie. And if you don't know that one, it goes, Wee Willie Winkie runs through the town, upstairs, downstairs, in his nightgown, rapping at the window, crying at the lock. All the children in their beds, for it's 8 o'clock, because that's when kids need to go to bed, is 8 o'clock, or earlier, right? So I don't want to mess with any parents' sleep schedule. So 8 o'clock. So, but then when I teach that story, I don't just rush through it as a finger play. I build it into a narrative. Oh, there's this boy, his name is Willie. Actually, his name is William, but he goes by Willie. That's his nickname. And Willie loves to go and see his friends so much that one night when his mom said, Willie, it's time to go to bed, he did not want to go to bed. And he asked if he could stay up, and she said, no, you must go to bed. And I do this silly half-baked accent because it helps explain some of the elements in the poem, like rapping at the lock, or the nightgown thing. It helps kids place that it is not in our neighborhood, it's not in our time, and so it's a little bit older. So when I do a silly accent like that, which is not at all accurate, Scotland, Ireland, wherever my accent is sort of not like at all, and it's so bad, it wavers between Irish and Jamaican, anyway. So but I add a little bit of accent to Willie's mom's voice to give it a little context. Anyway, so we go through, we learn it in a narrative form, and then the end result is they've learned this whole story about this boy named Willie. Why is he going to his friend's house? Why is he going up and down? All of that just to give a little context. And then at the end, then they can do the poem a little bit more easily. Wee Willie Winkie runs through the town, upstairs, downstairs, in his nightgown. He's in his nightgown because he was supposed to be in bed, but he snuck out of bed. Oh my God. So that whole thing helps kids sort of place Wee Willie Winkie. And then to connect with that, I've got this book. Because, we talk about, Willie, will he learn? Will he grow? Will he do what his parents say? Gosh, I hope so. Maybe as he's, growing and becoming a more a smarter kid, more responsible, he'll get to be better. But you know what? I have a book about a boy who became a really amazing, wonderful musician. But before he was that really amazing, wonderful musician, he listened to his family and he watched his family. And I wanted to share it with you. It's called Before John Was a Jazz Giant, about a man named John Coltrane. And anyway, let me read this to you. This is by Carol Boston Weatherford, illustrated by Sean Qualls, if you're interested, if you don't remember me talking a little bit about it before. But I'll read just a couple pages. Before John was a jazz giant, he heard ham bones knocking in Grandma's pots, Daddy strumming the ukulele, and Mama cranking the phonograph. You might need to give context, maybe not to the ham bone part of the phonograph or whatever, but for sure you might want to say, when they say he's a giant, they don't mean he's literally a giant, right? But he's just a bit, he's really good. He's like a superstar of jazz. That's the one that I always jazz giant. But I want to make sure that I mention to kids that when they say a giant, they don't literally mean a giant. Okay. Before John was a jazz giant, he heard steam engines whistling past, Cousin Mary giggling at jitterbuggers, and Bojangles tap dancing in the picture show. Before John was a jazz giant, he heard Grandpa's Sunday sermons, Mama playing hymns for the senior choir, and the scoutmaster's call to join a band. Ooh, sorry. I love this book. The illustrations are beautiful. It talks about how John Coltrane got started. It gives some really great examples. Good, bad, sad, happy. It talks about how all the things that he hears, the radio and the sounds just around him, he takes those, and all of this, it's all about like the influence of that onto what he eventually becomes. And like the last part is my favorite part, so let me just see if I can get there. He blew into the mouthpiece, pressed his fingers on the keys, and breathed every sound he'd ever known into a bold new song. Before John was a jazz giant, he was all ears. And so we can talk about how he listened and all the things around him, and he used those ideas to help create who he was. It created his worldview. And then I'll say, what do you hear? Do you hear things around you? And we might listen for a minute. You're like, how can we make those things musical? Man, how can we make those things musical? And I'm going to do some sort of pattern or something, you know, like with my clothes or whatever for them to hear and to like get some patterns, and then we'll have them mimic. Or, you know, like, what do you hear? You know, just patting or scraping your clothes, or the lights buzzing, or the, what, you know, not like the trumpet playing, but like, oh, I hear the clicking of someone's shoes. Oh, I hear the lunchroom. Or, you know, and how can you build that into, you know, echoing or creating or something, making something. And because we've spent so much time every day echoing patterns at the beginning of the day, it's a little easier to segue into this, like, listen to this found sound, and how can you recreate that? So I could even take a couple instruments and see, like, can you make the guiro sound on your clothes or on your body or on the floor, on the carpet of the floor? What can you do? Just trying to make a parallel between taking those sounds and creating, and taking our own sounds and creating. And if we have time at the end, I'll pull in another favorite from a previous lesson called Sandy Sand from Lynn Kleiner's book, SOS Songs of the Sea, where we take sand trapped in little egg shakers and do a fun little song and dance to go with it. If we have time. I always build those in because, especially with new lessons like this, we're like, I don't know, is it going to work or not? It's good to have like a backup at the end. So I always have like a book handy. I have a puppet handy. I have written into my notes at the end of the lesson, like, you did this book. You could do it again. You know, kids love to repeat, and especially because I haven't seen kids for like 5 weeks, it's okay to like, hey, remember when we did this fun poem? Let's do that again. You know, but the Sandy Sand is my backup for this particular lesson. The next day we do Copycat again, and then there's just a silly finger play about a great big cat, and it comes from the Feyerabend book of finger plays and songs. I can't remember, it's a little orange book. I can't remember if that's the exact name of it, but it's just a little finger play about a cat, and a cat chasing a mouse, and the big cat and the little mouse, and the whole reason I chose that was, 1, I wanted another finger play, 2, I have a whole cat theme going, but 3, we're also talking about similar and different. We're talking about opposites. We're talking about things that are not the same. So having the big fat cat and the little tiny rabbit, or little tiny mouse, and you could even talk about one moving fast, one moving slow. It helps sort of incorporate some of those things in. We take Wee Willie Winky, we bring him back, and we talk about going up and down. And I have these nifty step bells, and if you have step bells, I used to be like, oh, those seem cool, but how in the world am I supposed to, like, well, we can't do like a melody or a Bourdon or something with those. So, like, my Orff brain was like, but they're not really functional. I can't take bars off. What? But they are really good for melodic movement, or for going up and down, or high and low matching, high and low steps matching with high and low pitches. Kids have trouble understanding high and low when it comes to pitch, so this really helps because it is physically high and physically low. Right, so they get a step up the steps. So when we talk about Wee Willie Winky runs through the town, upstairs, downstairs, in his nightgown, well, he can actually go upstairs and downstairs. So I bring in the step bells so that we can connect that in with Wee Willie Winkie and the poem that we already learned. And it's going to come back later in the week too. But these step bells are really great. I think that you shouldn't buy like a class set. But to have some as an example is totally worth your money, especially if then you can hold it up next to a glockenspiel and compare contrast, because they're very similar, right? And kids will see all those similarities. And if they can make the connection with high and low on this, they'll hopefully be able to transfer that knowledge over to a glockenspiel. Okay, I love some step bells, but where I student taught, we had like 30 of them. And so I was like, well, we can't. They're not really good for a group. Anyway, they're fun for exploration, but I wouldn't get a whole class set. Again, so Grizzly, so how do you use shouting and singing voice? Well, because then Grizzly the bear gets to come and introduce shouting voice, right? And the kids love the shouting lesson every year. How do I do that? And so, again, I'm just like, I don't know. And so we're going to do, Grizzly trying to introduce, I can't wait to tell you about the last voice because it's the best, and he'll try and shout and I'll stop him, right? I'm going to stop him every time. And so the joke in last year's lesson when we didn't have COVID was that I would try and get him to stop and he would end up yelling anyway. Well, fine, but like, how do you do that safely? So what I've devised is that in the Wednesday lesson or whatever, he will try and shout and every time I'll stop him. And then on Thursday, he'll come back and say, Mr. Rao, I created a wonderful video for you to look at. I'm like, oh, really? And the video will be a video of Grizzly shouting basically at the camera and using his shouting voice and demonstrating shouting. But again, it's going to be pre-recorded so that I'm not actively putting out aerosols into my classroom, but that I can still get the shouting voice and kids will still think it's funny and it will still be memorable, but it will not be live. But okay, my puppets can have, a moment. It'll be fine. But it also means that anytime I do something pre-recorded, I'm always like, oh man, I'm pressing play on a video again. But at the same time, it means that I am not actively making sounds in my room. It gives me a chance to take a breath, get a drink of water, just hand sanitizer, whatever. But I keep telling myself, like, do not feel bad about pre-recording something or having that video clip that helps to demonstrate. Do not feel bad about that. This is not a normal year. We are teaching in a pandemic. You are making adaptations. It's fine. Like, I keep telling myself that. Plus, also, we don't say this enough. Classroom teachers, I get emails from them during the day. How do they have time to sit down and email when their kids are in the room? Aren't they bell-to-bell teaching? No, they are not. So don't feel bad about pre-recording or whatever, using that clip and in your lesson. It is totally fine because classroom teachers do it. So anyway, Grizzly is going to do shouting, but it's going to be on a separate day. My backup for this day is this book by Eric Litwin called Sing and Dance in Your Polka Dot Pants by the Nut Family. I know I've shared it before. It's so cool though, and it's a fun book about a little girl who wants to sing and dance. Her dad's busy doing something, his mom's busy doing something, her brother's not going to sing and dance with her, so she calls grandma and grandma comes and dances with her, and then the whole family gets inspired. Super cute book. What I really love about it is that the author Eric Litwin, who's the original author of Pete the Cat, was like a third grade teacher, so there are really great elements about reading in here to help kids figure out how to read and like anticipate things in the book. But also for free, he has on his website a recording of him reading the book. And not a video, just the audio of him reading the book, and pre-recorded with like guitars and drum kit and stuff, like professionally done, him singing the song that goes with the book, with kid voices, with his voice, with guitars. It's super cool. Kids love it. So it's one of those where you can like press play on your iPod and like flip through, and show that off. So this is my backup for Wednesday for if we have extra time. Speaking of if we have extra time, I don't. I'm running out of time. So I'm going to just sort of zoom through my Thursday, Friday, my day 4, day 5 lessons. We do Copycat, and then we get to meet another cat I have. I've got a tabby cat puppet, but I also have my fluffy cat puppet. And Fluffy is particularly sassy and likes to eat my lunch when I'm not around. And the joke with my younger kids has been that Tabby copies me, but if she keeps copying me when I don't want her to copy me, I got to take her snacks. Well, Fluffy takes my snacks when I don't want her to, and so the kids are going to think that that's just wonderful. And Fluffy is particularly big and fun and particularly sassy. All my puppets are sort of sassy. What does that say about me? Anyway, but so Fluffy gets to come out, and we are going to learn Naughty Kitty Cat, the song. But first, we read this book called Bad Kitty by Nick Bruel. And it's like one of those alphabet stories where like every page has letters. So she used to be a good kitty until one day. Oh dear, we're all out of food for the kitty. All we have left are some healthy and delicious, and then it goes through the alphabet. Asparagus, beets, cauliflower, dill, eggplants, fennel, garlic, horseradish. So like it goes through, and on each page we'll do another food that is linked to a letter, right? And so then she gets really annoyed about that idea, and then she destroys the house by alphabet because she doesn't want healthy food. Ate my homework, bit grandma, clawed the curtains, damaged the dishes, endangered the goldfish, flooded the bathroom, grappled with guests, hurled hairballs at our heads, and then so she goes through and destroys the house to the alphabet. And then they go to the grocery store and they get her all sorts of delicious foods, alphabetical. An assortment of anchovies, buffalo burritos, chicken cheesecake, a donkey named Dave, elephant eggs, fried flies, goose goulash, hippo hamburgers, etc. And then she feels so sorry, so she goes back and fixes the house to the alphabet. Apologized to grandma, bought me new toys, cleaned her cat box, drove me to school, erased the wall. So it goes through, and then anyway, in the end, they get a cat and things go back. So good, bad, good, bad, good, bad. So it matches pretty well with the song Naughty Kitty Cat, which again, I'm going to try and pre-record, and the only thing that we're going to do in class is the meow that Fluffy gets to do. If you don't know that song, totally worth checking it out. But instead of singing it in class, maybe we will, again, it's going to depend on what my music team comes up with this air filter thing. If not, we'll just pre-record, and we'll pre-record the singing part. We'll do the meows in class, and then as a sort of a fun extension activity, we're going to do things to keep Fluffy up by playing percussion instruments. And we're going to it'll be a chance for us to talk about how you make sound on percussion instruments. You have to hit, you have to scrape, you have to tap, you have to, and I'll hand out, I've got enough non-pitched percussion instruments that I can hand out to kids, something for each kid, and then we'll give them a chance to explore. You can scrape with some, you can click. How can you click? Is this ways? Can you do other things? Can you click it on your shoe? Can you click it on the floor? How can you do it? And we'll use the non-pitched percussion in that way to annoy Fluffy, basically. Like Fluffy's gonna be, I'm trying to sleep, and then we'll do like some patterns that will wake her up, and I'll, can you do tap, 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 or okay, shakers, get ready. You're going to go shake, 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 shake. And we'll just do a little back and forth with the puppet, but mostly it's a chance for us to bring in the non-pitched percussion and get kids trying and seeing what they can do. But again, it's less like, here's how you hold the triangle, here's how you play it, and more like, how can you hold and play? And I think I have enough that I can give every kid like 2 instruments, maybe like an egg shaker and rhythm sticks, or like a triangle and a rattle. I don't know. We're going to try out some different things, so that maybe if they have a particularly annoying instrument like the triangle that's like super loud and long, so they won't be only playing that. They can maybe like play like Sandblocks 2 or something, so that they have like a loud one, and I don't know. Still have to figure that out. Okay, we're almost out of time. Day 5 includes Highway Number 1. It's sort of Australia themed. Highway Number 1, and then there's this great series of videos from the Sydney Opera House called Who's in the Lift, where these kids go into an elevator in the Sydney Opera House and meet different people from the world of the opera house. So they meet an opera singer, they meet a percussionist, they meet a lighting designer, they meet all sorts of people. And in this one, they're going to meet a professional percussionist. They show off, and then we're going to use temple blocks to talk about high and low. These are actually piccolo blocks, but I couldn't bring my whole tempo blocks home. And we're gonna tap and stomp and whatever along with the beats on the tempo blocks. And we'll do steady beat walking, and we'll do rhythms, and that's going to sort of tie in. We're going to do high sounds, low sounds, which is higher, which is lower. Show that on your body, moving in a different way with the tempo blocks. All that sort of tied in with percussion. All week long, there's been a little bit of that, but this is going to sort of just bring it all together, and it's super fun. Again, in a normal year, we'd be moving around the room, but it's not a normal year. It's a pandemic. We're teaching in a pandemic, so don't feel bad making modifications. Okay, that's all my kindergarten, and I barely got through all of it. I'm so sorry, but that's all my kindergarten for the next rotation, and I'm going to share more about the next rotation next week, but I hope this gave you a few ideas of what you could do, all sort of stationary, all sort of things that you could do without a ton of singing, or any singing in some lessons, and still giving good lesson content. My hope is that, like, even though like we can't sing, like I can still give them super cool videos, taking them places we never could otherwise. I can still give them fun, exploratory things where they can feel the music in their body, they can feel the rhythm, they can feel the beat, they can still feel like a part of it, even though we're a little bit more limited. It just makes you think and plan differently, but not in a bad way, just in a different way. We're teaching in a pandemic. You have to make changes. So that's my mantra. Be flexible and try and see what you could do. I hope this gives you some ideas. Again, I hope you like the books at the beginning of the video, and I hope they gave you some ideas of things you can get. Look around. You might be able to find them pretty inexpensively. And if you're free this Saturday, I would love if you'd join us through the Milwaukee Orff chapter, the Greater Milwaukee Orff Dimensions. You can find information at milwaukeeorff.org. There's a workshop. It's only $10 if you're a non-member, a non-Milwaukee Orff member, and it's 2 hours all about critical thinking in the elementary music classroom. I hope you'll join us. I can't wait to share some ideas on Saturday. But if I don't see you then, I hope I'll see you next Monday night for another Musical Mondays video. Thanks, everyone. Have a great night.